All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our next lesson, Motivation Part A. We're going to be breaking apart or breaking down motivation into two lessons here. So this is for our unit or the unit impact of motivation and emotions. So our objectives and standards to understand how motivation impacts our daily lives and to describe the difference between instinct theory and drive reduction theory. Take a look at the standards there, please. Desired results. So please think about this as we're going through the lesson today, because you'll have to answer this question at the end. What are the impacts of certain elements of motivation? So what type of things impact or what certain things motivate us? Some vocabulary here. Motivation is an internal state that activates behavior and directs it towards goals. Instincts, tendencies that are innate and determine behavior. Need, a psychological or biological requirement for an organism. Drive, state of tension produced by a need that motivates an organism toward a goal. And homeostasis is a tendency of all organisms to correct imbalances and deviations from their normal state. So what is the purpose of motivation? Well, most of psychology is concerned with what people do and how they do it. However, there is research on motivation and emotion that focuses on why people do things. So this has to relate to motivation. So internal states that activate behaviors and direct them towards a goal describe motivation. So this is, again, motivation is why people do certain things. Various psychological and physiological factors can also cause us to act a certain way at a certain time. So factors of motivation. Our lives are filled with motivation depending on situations that we are all dealing with. So think about yourself or others you may know. For example, maybe you're a student or you know somebody who's a student that studies all weekend with very little time for friends or anything else because they want to go to college. Well, we understand that person's motivation. Their motivation is good grades and staying focused on school because they want to get into a good college. Maybe it's yourself or somebody else you know that a person may work very long hours at their job because their motivation is to save money to buy a car. We can also see motivation in movies. Frequently, the central theme of a movie is motivation or emotion, such as maybe like, I don't know how many you've seen the movie Taken with Liam Neeson. Obviously, he's trying to get his daughter back, or maybe there's a movie where maybe it's a sick parent or a sick child, and a person's trying to find a cure for that disease, or whatever the case may be. So a lot of times in movies, even though we might not realize it, but there's something that's motivating those characters that's driving the movie or the plot of the movie. There are numerous ways to describe motives and emotions: fear, pain, sorry, I should say starving, not staring, starving, anger, things like that. In psychology, conceptions of motivation can be expressed in daily language. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm tired, I'm sick. I'm angry, I'm sad. So a lot of times, our motives and our emotions can be described in how we talk daily. However, motivation cannot be directly observed. So we can't really see, like we said, that student who, we can see the person studying, we can see the person working long hours, but we don't necessarily know why they're doing that. We don't know that that person is working long hours because they want to buy a car. Maybe they're working long hours because they just like to work or they like their job. So we can't always observe motivation, is the point of this. Psychologists and others infer that motivation is a goal-directed behavior. So again, you're looking for a certain goal, you're looking for a certain purpose. So these behaviors can be energized by many motives from either outside or inside us. That's why I put the guy there with the stick with the carrot, because he's obviously probably hungry, but that's motivating him. There's two theories we're going to talk about today. There's other ones as well, but today we're going to focus on two. The first one is instinct theory. William McDougall, the top picture there, was a psychologist in the 1900s that proposed humans were motivated by a variety of instincts. These instincts are natural or inherited tendencies of an organism to a specific response or an environmental stimuli. Now, they occur in almost the same way among every type of certain species. For example, salmon. Salmon respond to instincts to swim thousands of miles through oceans and rivers to reach an exact spot where they have spawned or were spawned years earlier. Um, William James, the bottom picture there, was another psychologist who proposed that humans have instincts, certain instincts of things like cleanliness, parental love, sympathy, curiosity, sociability. However, psychologists soon discovered that there is kind of a flaw in instinct theory, that it only labels behavior, it does not explain it. For example, some psychologists have studied this instinctual behaviors, and now they call it fixed action patterns, that have focused on the theories to explain motivation. Labeling something as an instinct does not explain why some behaviors appear in some instances but not others. So, for example, maybe one child is afraid of bees, but another child is not afraid of bees. Well, the instinct theory would say that all humans are afraid of bees. Well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, I don't like bees. I don't know how you feel about bees, but, you know, you might not be as afraid of bees as I am, or maybe you are. Some people are allergic, so some people may be more terrified of bees because getting stung could cause them severe harm. So instinct theory basically says everybody has the same reaction that is of the same species. Now, psychologists tend to believe that while in some instincts are biologically programmed, individual experiences play a role as well, like we said about the bee example. Another example is that as humans, we may be biologically prepared to be afraid of such a snake or a bear if we come across it, but we might never have that real fear if we don't come across them in public. So, I mean, yeah, I know to be afraid of a bear if I were to see it in the woods, but until I actually came across the bear in the woods, I'm not going to know that real fear. So there's some trouble with instinct theory. Another theory, drive reduction theory. So anything that motivates us moves us to take action. So something that motivates us starts with a need or a biological or psychological requirement. This is true for a lot of organisms. It is a result of a lack of something desirable or useful. Now, they can be both physiological or psychological. Physiological things, we all need oxygen, we all need food, we all need water. Those are the things we basically need to survive, right? Can't live without them. Psychological could be social approval, could be self-esteem, could be affection, could be, things like that. Things that make us feel good in our mind. We don't necessarily need them, but they make us feel good. Psychological needs are not often needed to survive, but they can help us learn from them. I'm sorry, this is kind of small. Needs will produce a drive. So internal conditions can change over time, and they can orient an individual towards a specific goal or goals in a drive. Now, everyone has different drives with different goals. We understand that. And psychologist Clark Leonard Hull, that his picture right there, and his experiments led to the emergence of what we know as drive reduction theory. And he basically traced motivation back to basic physiological needs. When an organism is deprived of something it needs or wants, like water or food, the organism becomes agitated or tense. This organism will then engage in more or less random activity to relieve this tension. So its biological needs drive an organism to act and to attempt to maintain or return to homeostasis or a balanced state. So when we want or need something and it throws us off, for example, maybe, I know maybe you've heard the term hangry, right? People get hangry if they don't eat food. I know I do sometimes too, when you kind of get like, kind of a little, bossy or whatever. That's an example of this, when we become in a certain state because we need something, food, water, friendship, affection, we, become agitated and tense, and then we'll do things to try and relieve that tension. So maybe you say, I'm really hungry, I'm really angry, and I'm just going to take a nap, or whatever the case may be, or whatever, or you're going to go for a walk, listen to some music, and that helps us, return to a balanced state. Now, numerous experiments and studies involving drive reduction theory have occurred. An organism will begin to acquire a habit when a behavior reduces the drive, and when that drive is felt again, the organism will first try the same response. So drive continues to happen until the organism needs are satisfied and it returns to preset optimal state. So again, like we were saying, trying to get back to a balanced state, and you're going to do whatever you need to do, whether it be getting food or a glass of water, or maybe calling your friend on the phone or whatever, or talking to, a family member to help you, fill that drive or that need again. Now, Hull and Harlow, Clark Leonard Hull suggests that all human motives, from striving for excellence to seeking affection, are extensions of basic biological needs. So Hull says, just like humans need oxygen and food and water, people need, the approval of others. They need affection. They need, calming when they're upset. Things like that. They're all tied together. Through conditioning and generalization, the need for approval becomes important in our lives then. So, we need to feel accepted. We need to feel loved or, friends and things like that. There was also an experiment by Harry Harlow and others that attempted to disprove that infants only cling to their mothers for hunger or thirst. So again, going back to instinct, saying all we need is biological needs, they tried to disprove that by saying, well, that's not necessarily true. So what they did, and the picture kind of explains it here, they took baby monkeys away from their mothers and put them in cages, along with 2 substitute mothers made of wire. Now, one substitute monkey had a bottle, symbolizing that, thirst and that need for hunger or whatever, but the other wire monkey had soft cloth with no bottle, so it was very comforting and soothing. And time after time, results showed that the baby monkeys, like you see in this picture here, preferred the soft cloth monkey over the monkey that had the bottle. So again, disproving the theory that all we need our parents for, or all we need from people is food and and drink and things like that. The baby monkeys actually went to the the fake mother that was softer because it felt like a real mother, especially when they put like scary objects in the cage. The babies ran over to the mother that felt like a real monkey. So again, showing us that affection is part of our basic motivational needs as well. All right, so closing out here, what are the impacts of certain elements of motivation? Think about that. Hope you have a great rest of your day or evening, and I will talk to you guys soon.